Okay, so everyone knows those generic workout routines, they just don't always cut it, you know? You're putting in the work but not seeing the results you want. We got a really interesting article sent in about advanced strength and conditioning, and I think this might be the key to like unlocking a whole new level of performance.
Yeah, it's interesting because this deep dive, it takes us way beyond like basic fitness. We're going to be exploring the principles that are used by elite athletes and military operators, the
Mm-mm.
people who need to be at the absolute peak of physical and mental strength.
Right, exactly. It's about building functional strength and power that you can actually use in real life, not just looking good in the mirror.
Yeah, and it's not just about like brute strength either. A
Mm.
big part of this is understanding how to train your nervous system for better performance and to prevent injuries. That's something that a lot of traditional fitness programs, they just skip over.
That's a really good point. It's about building a body that's not just powerful but resilient too. So let's start with this idea of functional strength. The article really emphasizes training movements, not just isolating muscles. Can you break that down for us?
Okay, well, think about it this way. How often do you actually isolate your biceps in everyday life? Probably not that often, but you do use movements like squatting to pick up your kids or pushing to open a heavy door.
Hmm.
Functional strength is about training your body for those multidimensional movements that we use all the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's about preparing your body for the real world, not just for the gym.
Exactly. And that's where compound exercises come in.
Yeah.
Moves like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, they work multiple muscle groups all at the same time, and they build strength, coordination, and stability all at once.
So instead of doing like bicep curls, I should be focusing on exercises that use my whole body.
Exactly. Compound movements give you way more bang for your buck. And there's this other fascinating technique that the article mentions for maximizing strength gains. It's combining heavy eccentric loading with explosive concentric force.
Okay, I have to admit that sounds a little intimidating. What exactly does that mean?
It involves doing these supersets where you lift a heavy weight slowly on the eccentric phase, that's the lowering part of the movement, and then you explode upwards with a lighter weight on the concentric phase, that's the lifting part.
So it's like a 1-2 punch for your
Oh,
muscles.
exactly. And it's not just theory either. This type of training has shown some pretty impressive results in research. A study by Les Mills found that it led to a 20% increase in squat strength and a 19% improvement in vertical jump height.
Wow, those are some serious gains. But is this kind of training safe and effective for everyone? Like, what about older adults?
That's a great question, and the article actually addresses that. It suggests that power training, which involves those high-velocity movements we just talked about, can be even more beneficial for older adults than traditional strength training alone.
Really, I would have thought that older adults would need to be more careful with explosive movements.
It's all about proper form and progression. But the key takeaway is that incorporating movement speed can be a powerful tool for combating age-related decline in strength and mobility.
Mm.
It's never too late to add some explosiveness to your workouts.
That's encouraging to hear. So we're not just building muscles here. The article also goes into the brain-body connection, explaining how strength training actually changes our nervous system.
Absolutely. It's not just about building bigger muscles, it's about training your brain to use those muscles more efficiently.
So it's like upgrading the software that runs our bodies. Can you explain a little more about how that works?
So when you lift heavy weights, you're challenging your nervous system to adapt. And this leads to something called increased motor unit firing.
Okay, hold on a second. What exactly are motor units?
You can think of a motor unit as a team of muscle fibers that are controlled by a single nerve. When you lift weights, your brain recruits more of these motor units to generate force.
So the more motor units are firing, the more muscle fibers are activated and the stronger we become.
Exactly. Heavy lifting, it forces your nervous system to get better at activating and coordinating those muscle fibers. And this leads to greater force production and improved movement efficiency. It's like fine-tuning the connection between your brain and your muscles.
That's fascinating. It's not just about brute force, but about the brain's ability to control and coordinate those muscles. But the article really stresses that it's important to build a solid strength foundation before jumping into power training. Why is that?
It's like if you try to run before you can walk, you're probably going to fall and hurt yourself. The same principle applies to strength and power training. You need to make sure that your nervous system can handle the demands of those explosive movements before you start pushing the limits.
So it's about building a strong base first to prevent injuries down the road. That makes a lot of sense. But speaking of injury prevention, the article also emphasizes building resilience. So it's not just about being strong, it's about being durable and injury-proof.
Yeah, it's about preparing your body for the long haul. Whether you're an athlete or just someone who wants to stay active and healthy for years to come, resilience is key.
So what are the key ingredients for building that kind of resilience? What's the secret sauce?
There are a few key areas to focus on. First, you have to strengthen those often neglected muscles and connective tissues around your joints.
You're talking about the things that stabilize our joints and prevent them from getting injured.
Exactly. Think of it like reinforcing the foundation of a house. The stronger that foundation, the more it can withstand.
So how do we actually strengthen those areas?
Eccentric training. Those slow, controlled lowering movements are really effective for strengthening tendons and ligaments. It teaches your body to absorb impact and bounce back from stress.
So when I'm doing my squats, for example, I should focus on slowly lowering down rather than just dropping.
Exactly. Really feel those muscles working and control that descent. The article also talks about mobility and flexibility. Regular stretching and mobility work can improve your range of motion, reduce muscle stiffness, and make you feel more fluid and comfortable in your movements.
Yeah, it's like oiling the hinges on a door. Everything just works better when it's not all creaky and stiff.
Hmm.
But there's another piece to this resilience puzzle, right? Something about structural balance.
That's right. Structural imbalances, like muscle weaknesses or tightness, they can actually make you more prone to injury. Think of a car with one tire slightly deflated. It's going to pull the whole vehicle off course, and eventually something's going to give. The same principle applies to your body. If you have imbalances, certain muscles will be overworking while others are underperforming, and that increases your risk of pain and injury.
So we need to make sure our bodies are balanced and aligned to prevent those kinds of issues. But how do we even know if we have these imbalances?
That's where a good coach or trainer can be incredibly helpful. They can assess your movement patterns, identify any imbalances, and design a program that addresses your specific needs. And get this, the article cites research showing that strength and conditioning programs combined with injury prevention strategies can reduce the risk of re-injury by up to 50%.
That's incredible. It really highlights the importance of being proactive and taking a holistic approach to our training. And you mentioned that resilience isn't just about bouncing back from injury, but potentially surpassing your pre-injury baseline.
Exactly. It's about emerging from challenges even stronger than before. Our bodies have this incredible ability to adapt and grow in response to stress, and when we train strategically, we can harness that power to reach new levels of performance.
That's a powerful message. Now let's switch gears and talk about the energy systems that fuel all of this movement. The article dives into the interplay between those systems and endurance. Can you explain that to us?
It's like having a car with different gears. You need different gears for different situations. And the same applies to your body. You have fast-twitch muscle fibers, which are your high-octane fuel for explosive power, and you have slow-twitch fibers, which are your diesel engine for endurance activities.
So for things like sprinting or lifting heavy weights, we rely more on those fast twitch fibers, while for endurance activities like long distance running, it's more about the slow twitch fibers.
Exactly. And to be truly well-rounded, we need to train both types of fibers. The article highlights different training methods for each. High-intensity interval training, or HIT, is great for boosting both your aerobic and anaerobic capacity, while continuous training like long-distance running or swimming build aerobic endurance.
So we need a mix of both types of training to build a balanced fitness profile. But how do we know which type of training to prioritize?
That's where personalized training approaches come in. What works best for you depends on your individual needs goals, and even your genetic predispositions. It's not about following a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about understanding your own body and tailoring your training accordingly.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about working with our bodies, not against them. And speaking of maximizing our training, the article talks about something called training density. What exactly is that?
Think about it like this. How much work can you pack into a given amount of time? So if you can complete more reps or sets or rounds of a workout in the same amount of time, or if you can do the same amount of work in less time, your training density has improved.
So it's about becoming more efficient with our training, getting more done in less time.
Exactly. And this concept applies to different types of workouts. In strength training, it might mean increasing the weight you're lifting while maintaining the same number of reps and sets. In HIT, it could involve shortening the rest intervals between bursts of activity. The key is to constantly challenge yourself to do more with less.
I love that, getting more bang for our buck in the gym. But while we're talking about pushing limits, let's not forget about the power of the mind. The article has a whole section on above the neck, sports performance, emphasizing that mental strength is just as important as physical strength.
Yeah, this is an area that often gets overlooked. We tend to focus so much on the physical aspects of training, But the mental game is just as important, if not more so. How much of our performance do you think is dictated by what's going on between our ears? A lot.
It's not just about having strong muscles, it's about having a strong mind to match. What are some of the key elements of mental training?
The article dives into a few key elements, starting with mental preparation and practice. Learning to relax the mind, visualize success, and control that inner voice that can sometimes sabotage our efforts. Techniques like meditation can be incredibly powerful for achieving mental calmness and focus. It can help you quiet those mental distractions and tap into a state of flow.
So it's like training your mind to become a laser beam, focusing intently on the task at hand and blocking out all the unnecessary noise. But it's not just about quieting the mind, right? It's also about cultivating self-belief and confidence.
Absolutely. Believing yourself and your abilities can be a game changer. It allows you to push past those self-imposed limitations and embrace challenges head on.
And the article also mentions the competition mindset.
Yes, but it frames competition a little differently. It suggests that reframing competition as a battle against yourself rather than solely focusing on external competitors can unlock a whole new level of performance. It's about constantly striving to be better than you were yesterday, pushing your own boundaries and celebrating your personal victories.
It's like having your own internal hype squad cheering you on every step of the way. I love
Wow.
that. But the mind-body connection isn't just a one-way street. The article also explores how physical training actually influences our brains.
That's right. Exercise is incredibly beneficial for our brains. Studies have shown that it can boost cognitive function, improving memory, attention, and even creativity. It also triggers the release of endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that have mood-boosting and pain-reducing effects. And on top of all that, it can make you more resilient to stress by improving your body's ability to cope with those fight-or-flight responses.
So we're not just building muscles and endurance, we're building stronger, more resilient brains as well. And the article suggests that we can enhance this mental toughness by incorporating some specific psychological techniques into our training.
Yeah, things like visualization, goal setting, and mindfulness practices can be really powerful tools. Visualization is about mentally rehearsing successful performance, building that mental blueprint for success. Goal setting gives you that sense of purpose and direction, keeping you motivated and on track. And mindfulness practices like meditation can help you stay present, manage stress, and cultivate that inner calm.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop between the mind and body, where physical training enhances mental toughness and mental training fuels physical performance. But even the toughest minds and bodies need time to recover and recharge. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle: recovery and nutrition.
It's like that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. No matter how hard you train, you won't see optimal results if you're neglecting your recovery. And this involves prioritizing sleep, optimizing your nutrition, and incorporating active recovery techniques to promote muscle repair and regeneration.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with nutrition. The article stresses the importance of a balanced diet with adequate protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats.
Think of it like this protein provides the building blocks for muscle repair and growth. Carbohydrates replenish use the depleted energy stores from your workouts. And healthy fats support hormone production and overall cell function. It's about giving your body the fuel it needs to recover and rebuild after those intense workouts.
So we're talking about nourishing our bodies from the inside out. But the article mentions something interesting about the role of psychology in nutrition.
It's often overlooked, but stress, anxiety, and other negative emotions can have a significant impact on our eating habits. When we're feeling stressed, we often reach for comfort foods that might not be the best choices for our bodies.
It's like emotional eating. When we're feeling down, we turn to food for comfort.
Exactly. And the article encourages us to be mindful of those emotional eating patterns and prioritize stress management techniques to cultivate a healthier relationship with food. It's not just about what we eat, but why we eat it.
That's a really important point. But let's not forget about the MVP of recovery: sleep. The article recommends aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Why is sleep so crucial for recovery?
Sleep is when the magic happens. It's when your muscles repair themselves, your hormones rebalance, and your brain consolidates memories and processes information. Skimping on sleep is like robbing your body of its chance to recover and adapt to all that hard work you've been putting in.
It's like hitting the reset button on our systems, allowing us to wake up feeling refreshed, energized, and ready to tackle the day ahead. And the article mentions cold exposure, things like cold showers or ice baths, as potential recovery boosters.
Yeah, although I'll admit this one might not be for everyone. But cold exposure can be incredibly effective for reducing inflammation and promoting recovery. It's thought to constrict blood vessels, reducing swelling and flushing out metabolic waste products. It can also help to reduce muscle soreness and speed up the healing process.
I'm intrigued by the science behind it, but I'm more of a hot shower kind of person. Maybe I'll work my way up to it. But for those of us who prefer a gentler approach, the article also highlights active recovery techniques like walking and stretching.
Active recovery is all about getting your body moving gently, increasing blood flow, and reducing muscle stiffness without putting undue stress on your system. Think of it like a cool down after an intense workout. It helps to gradually bring your heart rate back down, flush out metabolic waste, and promote relaxation.
So it's not about being completely sedentary on rest days, but about finding ways to move our bodies that feel good and support recovery. It's all about listening to our bodies and finding what works best for us. Now, before we move on to specific exercises and techniques, let's take a peek into the training protocols followed by some of the fittest people on the planet: elite athletes and military operators.
These are the individuals who push their bodies to the absolute limit. They've got to be at the top of their game. So they have a lot to teach us about building strength, power, and resilience.
Right, and what's fascinating is that they often follow similar principles to the ones we've been discussing, but they take them to a whole new level. Let's dive into that in the next part of this deep dive.
So you want to know how those elite athletes and military operators actually train, huh? Well, they often use something called periodized training programs. These programs, they involve like strategically varying the intensity and volume of their workouts over time. It's not about going all out every single day. It's more like a carefully crafted plan with peaks and valleys to prevent plateaus, avoid burnout, and maximize those adaptations we've been talking about.
So it's about being strategic with their training, not just going through the motions.
Exactly. They also really prioritize those compound exercises we talked about, like squats, deadlifts, Olympic lifts,
Yeah.
to build that full body strength and power. And they also incorporate a lot of functional fitness training, which like translates directly to real world performance.
Yeah, I'm picturing things like body weight exercises, calisthenics, loaded carries, like we see in those intense training montages.
Exactly. It's about training for real life scenarios, not just for aesthetics or for the numbers on a barbell. And one thing that really stands out is that they work with these high performance coaches who understand the importance of individualized training programs. They recognize that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to fitness, and they tailor their clients' training plans to their specific needs, goals, and training history.
It's like having a personal guide who can help you navigate the complexities of training and create a roadmap for success.
Yeah, it's about maximizing your potential by understanding your unique strengths and weaknesses and tailoring your training accordingly. Speaking of specific training techniques, the article actually provides this handy table of example exercises for each training focus. We've talked about the principles, but now let's see how they translate into action.
Okay, I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty. What does it say about strength training?
Well, it recommends focusing on those compound movements that engage multiple muscle groups. We've got the classics listed here, like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, overhead presses.
The bread and butter of strength training. And for good reason. They work your entire body, building
Yeah.
that functional strength we've been talking about.
Right. But they also mention some more explosive movements like cleans and plyometrics.
I'm picturing those powerful jumps and throws. It sounds intense.
Yeah, it's all about developing that power and speed, taking your strength training to the next level. But of course, we also need to focus on resilience and injury proofing. What kind of exercises does it suggest for building those ironclad joints?
Yeah, that's a crucial part. I'm ready to build a body that can withstand anything.
Well, the article highlights eccentric training. Remember those slow, controlled lowering movements? That's a key player here.
Right, like slowing down the lowering phase of a squat or a pull-up.
Exactly. It's particularly effective for strengthening those tendons and ligaments,
Yeah.
making them more resistant to those stresses that can lead to injury.
So it's about building those shock absorbers in our
Uh.
bodies. I like that analogy. What else?
They also mention core strengthening exercises as essential for building a stable foundation.
Makes sense. A strong core supports our entire body, protects our spine, improves our overall movement efficiency. What about mobility and flexibility? I know those are important for just feeling good and moving freely.
Yeah, the article recommends incorporating yoga and Pilates into your routine.
I can see how those practices would really complement the strength and power training.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Strength training builds the power, but mobility and flexibility unlocks that power, allows you to move freely and efficiently without restrictions. Now let's switch gears to energy systems and endurance. What kind of exercises can we do to boost both our aerobic and anaerobic capacities?
I'm ready to explore that. I want to be able to perform well in both short bursts of activity and endurance challenges.
Okay, well, the article mentions sprints as a fantastic way to train those fast-twitch muscle fibers and improve your anaerobic power.
Short bursts of all-out effort, pushing your body to its limits. I can feel my heart rate going up just thinking about it.
And then for building that aerobic endurance, it recommends long-distance running, swimming, cycling. It's all about sustained effort over a longer period of time.
So we need a mix of both, right? Those high-intensity sprints and the longer endurance activities.
Exactly. And the article also highlights intervals training as a fantastic way to combine both aerobic and anaerobic training into a single workout. You're essentially alternating between those high-intensity bursts and periods of lower-intensity recovery, challenging both energy systems.
That sounds like a really efficient way to get a well-rounded workout.
Now remember, the specific exercises that work best for you will depend on your individual goals and preferences. But this table in the article provides a great starting point for building a well-rounded training program that addresses all aspects of functional fitness.
It's like a buffet of options for building the ultimate fitness plan. But let's not forget about the mental game. We've talked about the importance of mental strength, but what are some practical techniques we can use to actually cultivate that mental toughness and unlock peak performance?
One of the most powerful techniques mentioned in the article is visualization. Mentally rehearsing successful performance.
So like creating a mental movie of yourself executing a movement flawlessly, feeling strong and confident, achieving your desired outcome.
Exactly. And the more you rehearse it mentally, the more likely you are to perform that way in reality. The article also emphasizes the importance of goal setting. Having clear, specific goals gives you something tangible to strive for. It keeps you motivated and focused on your journey.
It's like having a roadmap to success guiding you toward your destination and helping you stay on track when those inevitable obstacles arise. And I remember we talked about mindfulness practices like meditation. How do those fit into the picture?
Meditation can be incredibly powerful for training your mind to stay present, manage stress, and cultivate that inner calm that's essential for peak performance. Even just a few minutes of daily meditation can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like hitting the pause button on your busy mind, allowing yourself to simply be, to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, and to cultivate a sense of peace and clarity. But building mental toughness isn't something that happens overnight, right? It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's about consistently practicing these techniques, challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone, and embracing those moments of adversity as opportunities for growth. It's
Yeah.
like building any other muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes.
And the stronger our minds are, the better equipped we'll be to face those challenges and achieve our goals. Now let's shift our focus to the often overlooked but absolutely essential aspect of training recovery. Something we tend to gloss over, but I'm realizing it's just as important as the workouts themselves.
Remember what we said earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. No matter how hard you train, you won't see those optimal results if you're neglecting your recovery. So let's dive into those recovery strategies, starting with the foundation of it all, sleep.
I'm ready to learn how to optimize my sleep for maximum recovery. What are the key takeaways?
The article recommends aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. I can't stress this enough. Sleep is non-negotiable. It's when your body truly repairs and rebuilds muscle tissue, rebalances hormone levels, consolidates memories, and processes all that information from the day.
So skimping on sleep is like sabotaging all the hard work we put into our training.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're struggling to get enough sleep, try establishing a consistent sleep schedule. Create a relaxing bedtime routine and optimize your sleep environment. Make sure it's dark, quiet, and cool.
Yeah, creating that sanctuary for sleep makes a big difference. But quality matters just as much as quantity, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Avoid caffeine and alcohol before bed, and consider incorporating relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation into your bedtime routine to kind of signal to your body that it's time to wind down.
Now let's talk about another important piece of the recovery puzzle: nutrition. The article emphasizes the importance of a balanced diet with adequate protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats. I'm picturing a plate filled with colorful, nutrient-rich foods.
That's a great image to have in mind. Protein provides the building blocks for muscle repair and growth. Carbohydrates replenish those depleted energy stores from your workouts, and healthy fats support hormone production and overall cell function.
So it's about giving your body the fuel it needs to recover and rebuild after those intense training sessions.
Mhm.
But we've also talked about how supplements can play a role.
Yeah, while supplements can be helpful in some cases, it's important to remember that whole foods should always be the foundation of your nutrition plan. Focus on getting a variety of nutrient-rich foods from all the food groups: fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, healthy fats.
It's about nourishing your body from the inside out with real whole foods. And of course, we can't forget about hydration.
Right, water is absolutely essential for countless bodily functions, including muscle recovery and nutrient transport. Aim to drink plenty of water throughout the day, especially before, during, and after your workouts.
It's easy to forget about water when we're so focused on all the other aspects of training and recovery. But it's such a fundamental piece of the puzzle. Now, you mentioned earlier that nutrition isn't just about what we eat, but also why we eat it. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
It's about being mindful of our emotional eating patterns. When we're feeling stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, it's easy to reach for those comfort foods that provide a temporary sense of relief. But often those choices don't serve our body's needs and can actually hinder our recovery and performance.
Yeah, it's that emotional eating trap we can sometimes fall into. I know, I've been there. So, how do we overcome those patterns and cultivate a healthier relationship with food?
It's about becoming more aware of our triggers, practicing stress management techniques like deep breathing or meditation, and finding healthier ways to cope with those challenging emotions.
So, it's about addressing the root causes of those emotional eating patterns rather than just trying to suppress them. That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's dive into some more active recovery techniques. I remember you mentioned cold showers or ice baths.
Yeah, while it might not sound appealing at first, cold exposure can be surprisingly effective for reducing inflammation and promoting recovery.
I'm still on the fence about this one, but the science behind it is intriguing.
It's thought to constrict blood vessels, which can reduce swelling and help flush out metabolic waste products. It can also help reduce muscle soreness and improve circulation, leaving you feeling refreshed and revitalized.
Okay, so if I'm brave enough to give it a try, should I just jump right into a freezing cold shower?
Start slowly. Begin with short exposures and gradually increase the duration as you get more comfortable. And listen to your body. If it feels like too much, don't force it.
That's good advice for any new recovery technique. But for those of us who prefer a gentler approach, what are some other options?
Think about activities like walking, light jogging, swimming, gentle stretching. The key is to choose movements that get your blood flowing and your muscles moving without putting undue stress on your body. It's about promoting circulation, reducing stiffness, and gently encouraging the recovery process.
So it's not about being completely sedentary on rest days, but finding ways to move our bodies that feel good and support recovery. And I imagine that this whole idea of recovery, it's an ongoing process, not just something we do on designated rest days.
You got it. It's about listening to your body, recognizing signs of fatigue or overtraining, and adjusting your training accordingly. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your body is to take a complete break, allow yourself to fully recover, and come back even stronger.
It's about finding that sustainable balance between training and recovery that allows us to make consistent progress over time. I'm realizing that recovery isn't just about pampering ourselves, it's a crucial element of reaching our full potential.
Exactly. It's an investment in our long-term health and performance. Speaking of potential, I think it's incredible how resilient the human body is.
Yeah, it really is amazing what our bodies are capable of.
We're designed to adapt, to grow stronger, to overcome challenges. And the more we understand about how our bodies work, the more effectively we can train them, nourish them, and support their incredible capacity for healing and adaptation.
It's inspiring to think about the power we have within us to transform our bodies and minds.
And it's a journey of self-discovery, learning what works best for our individual bodies and challenging ourselves to push beyond those perceived limitations. It's about honoring our strengths, acknowledging our weaknesses, and celebrating every step we take toward becoming the strongest, most resilient versions of ourselves.
I'm feeling motivated to take all of this information and apply it to my own training. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear about those inspiring examples of people who really embody these principles. The elite athletes and military operators you mentioned earlier, they're like living proof of what's possible when we combine physical and mental strength with strategic training and recovery.
Yeah, they're incredibly inspiring examples, and I think their stories can provide valuable insights for all of us. Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
So we've talked about all the principles, the exercises, the mental game, the importance of recovery. And now I'm really excited to hear about those elite athletes and military operators. What can we actually learn from them? Well, one thing that really sets them apart is their unwavering commitment to their training. They understand that to reach peak performance, it requires consistent effort, discipline, and a willingness to push beyond those comfort zones.
It's like they've totally embraced that growth mindset. They're constantly striving to learn, adapt, and improve. But it's not just about brute force effort, is it?
Yeah, exactly. They approach their training with this level of strategy and precision that's remarkable.
Mm.
They understand the importance of periodization, gradually increasing the intensity and volume of their training over time to avoid plateaus and maximize those adaptations.
So it's about having a plan, not just hitting the gym every day and hoping for the best.
Right. And they really prioritize those compound exercises, those multi-joint movements that work multiple muscle groups all at the same time. We're talking about squats, deadlifts, Olympic lifts,
Hmm.
the heavy hitters that build a foundation of serious strength and power.
Yeah, it's about building that functional strength that translates into real-world performance. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't neglect those smaller stabilizing muscles either. They incorporate a lot of functional fitness training, body weight exercises, calisthenics, loaded carries, those kinds of movements that really mimic the demands of everyday life, or, in the case of military operators, the extreme demands of their jobs.
Right. It's about training for real-life scenarios, not just for how you look or for hitting a certain number on the barbell.
Absolutely. And another key factor is that they have access to expert guidance. They work with high-performance coaches who understand the science of training and can tailor individualized programs to meet their very specific needs and goals.
It's like having a personal Sherpa who can guide you through all the complexities of training and help you reach your summit.
It's about maximizing your potential by working with someone who really understands your unique strengths and weaknesses and aspirations.
So even though we might not all have Olympic-level coaches at our disposal, there's still a lot we can learn from the principles these elite individuals follow.
Definitely.
Mm.
It's about embracing that commitment to training, prioritizing those compound exercises, incorporating functional fitness, and seeking guidance from those who really have a deep understanding of the human body and its potential.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've explored the science behind strength and power, the importance of resilience, the power of the mind-body connection, and even the strategies used by some of the fittest people on the planet.
Yeah, it's been a pretty awesome journey through this fascinating world of human performance, a world where physical and mental strength converge to create incredible possibilities.
And I think the key takeaway here is that we all have that potential within us. We might not be training for the Olympics or a special ops mission, but we can still apply these principles to our own lives no matter what our fitness level or goals are.
Yeah, it's about embracing the challenge, that journey of self-discovery, and that commitment to becoming the strongest, most resilient versions of ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's one thing you're going to take away from this and apply to your own training or your life?
I think I'm really struck by the power of the mind-body connection and the importance of mental training. I'm going to make a conscious effort to incorporate more visualization and mindfulness practices into my routine.
I love that. For me, I think it's the emphasis on functional strength and training for those real life movements. I'm going to focus on those compound exercises and really challenge myself to move my body in ways that translate beyond the gym.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges along the way, but that's all part of the process.
Embrace the challenge, enjoy the journey, and never stop striving to become the best version of yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.